The planning conversation starts here on the Income Protection Podcast. Here's your host, Mike Cogdall and Grayson Owen.
All right, Mike, we are back. It is almost my favorite time of year, Thanksgiving. How goes it in Florida?
Grayson is going awesome, and here's why. It's kind of one of my favorite times of year, too. The only pressure you have is to whether you fry a turkey, roast a turkey, eat too much, try to avoid all political conversation. That's my little sidebar for the day, by the way. Avoid all. Family gathering with really little or no pressure. No gifts, no nothing. And you know what? I think it's a cool time, too, to just, embrace family and friends and don't worry about all the little minutia stuff that hits us every day. That being said, everything is fantastic. I'm going to see family for Thanksgiving. What about you?
Yeah, everything's good. We're hosting Thanksgiving at our place this year. So looking forward to that. Picked up some napkins off of Amazon that say leftovers are for quitters. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to hanging out with family and friends and enjoying the holiday. Last thing I'll throw out there is that leading up to Thanksgiving, I have a big milestone coming up. I turned 40 on Tuesday, so hopefully that's the halfway mark, but it's the big 4-0.
It ain't halfway. I wish I could remember 40. It was a pretty good time. And another point is you've hung out with me long enough is you'll always just act not your age, but you'll act your mentality and your attitude. And that's all you got to do, my friend. So far, so good. I appreciate you and happy birthday. Wishing you well.
Appreciate it, man. And just kind of dovetail from that conversation, 40, if you don't feel like an adult by 40, that's okay. But I will say one way that I know that I'm an adult is that I always look forward to trash pickup day. And it's something that's very odd that I never took notice of, growing up. But as an adult with a family that creates a lot of garbage from week to week with cooking and all that stuff, trash day, it always reminds me every week. So,
well, for me,
random sidebar.
I'm going to finish that sidebar. For me, trash day is Tuesday and Friday. And for some reason, and I have two lovely girls, but they can take the two bins that are in the kitchen because there's two. They're hidden. They're just exactly the way it should be. They can stack things so high without taking that bag out. It's almost like Jenga. It's unbelievable what they can do to just not understand that it takes all of 20 seconds to take the two handles of that bag, pull it up out, throw it in the garbage can, and put a new bag in. And to this day, since I've lived in this house, I just gave up. It's my job and will be my job forever. Anyway, sidebar on garbage duty.
I can relate to that. That happens at least once a week. And I say, what happened here to this trash can? And I immediately get looks from across the kitchen that it's my problem and it's no one else's. And they don't even say a word. And it is what it is, Mike. But enough of all this talk and hope you and your family have a happy Thanksgiving and everything. And so let's go talk about disability insurance. And what is a way that we could potentially create a Thanksgiving sales concept? Maybe it's one that's been used before by some producers we know, but maybe we can help simplify the concept by coining it the Thanksgiving sales concept. What do you think, Mike?
I don't think that's a bad idea. And, lots of things that we do are either they morph from just having conversation. So you know what? We're huge on, and I just talked to a friend yesterday about idea share. And I told him something and he goes, I'm going to wait the 30 days and steal that. And I said, you know what? You can use my little quote tomorrow. This is the disability insurance industry, income protection, risk protection, anything you want to call it. But again, we've spent our entire year on podcast talking about lack of awareness. So if you've got something that somebody needs to say or it fits, by all means, get it out there. And if it's witty and funny, all the better, because what we talk about in financial services, one thing you talk about financial planning, right? And that's get to the glory days of age 65. And by the way, you're a long way off. But the thing is, along the way, the risk protection piece is always, it seems to be for a lot of people like a doom and gloom thing, right? Also, we want to talk about whether I get hurt, sick, or die. Real fun. So if you've got something to say and it's witty and fun, go ahead. Or you have a concept that kind of resonates or makes sense with people, I think you should get it out there and use it. And because you just said Thanksgiving and we just both talked about family and friends, specifically family getting together, Let's talk about where this whole world of disability insurance income protection fits into not the immediate family, but the extended family as well. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think, and we brought this up at a high level on previous episodes, so I'd like to dive into it deeper today. One of the concepts is that a lot of financial advisors out there focus in helping, pre-retirees and retirees with their retirement planning, estate planning objectives, things along those lines. Maybe business owners looking to transition their business to the next generation and exit and retire, those types of planning scenarios. And so what's interesting about that is that the end client there may have a generation 2 or even 3 under them, right? They have kids and grandkids. And a lot of those next generations are working professionals. They have their own careers, or maybe they're within a family business, whatever it may be. They need income protection. And so I'd love to hear from you kind of how that could be positioned in conversations for those advisors that might work with the retiring professionals or owners of companies, and how could they ask for introductions to those next generations, and why is it important to do that to protect their clients as well?
It's a really good question, and I think we'll go back and forth here for a second, but I think you have two schools of thought. It doesn't even have to be transitional from one generation to the next for a business. It can be anything. You could be a CPA and your son or daughter, and for this sake, I'll just say son, what the heck, is an engineer. But you start to get to the point where, let's say that you've amassed a great retirement, and we'll call it $5 million. I'm just making up a number. It could be $2 million and we'd still be fine. You know what I mean? But we'll use a $5 million. And you're there and you're ready to go. And life is about as rosy. You're looking at Carnival Cruise or whatever you call those things. You're looking at that trip to Africa, that safari that you've dreamt of that's going to cost you and your wife $50,000 to do. You've been thinking about this forever. That's a beautiful thing and a beautiful place to be. You also have 2 grandkids. You have a son named, I don't know, Robbie, and I don't know where my names come from, a son named Robbie, and you have a daughter named Britt. So you got Britt and Robbie, and they're 7 and 9 years old, and they probably are the apple of your eye, to use an old phrase. You adore them to death. Every grandparent I know, because my kids call me Dadpa, which I'm both. Because of my age, I'm a dad and a grandpa, so I'm Dadpa. Leave me out of this for a moment. But you love those 2 kids. So Robbie and Britt, you would do anything for. Here's the question. What would happen to your son or daughter, but we'll use the son in this analogy just for the heck of it. Your son, who's the father of those 2 that you just adore, they're on your screensaver everywhere in the house. There's pictures everywhere. You look at them every single day on your phone. And my father passed 2 years ago, but my father-in-law is still here. And I know how much they love grandkids. I know how much almost everybody I meet loves grandkids. And they always say 2 things. One, I don't have to keep them, which is always the funny part, right? So it's the greatest thing ever. I get to spoil. I get to do everything. And then they get to go back to mom and dad. Everybody has a rotational job. Think about this for a second. What if your son, I'm the grandfather, and you are Britt and Robbie's dad? What would happen in the event that you, Grayson, Britt and Robbie's dad, at 40 years of age on Tuesday, became hurt or sick for any reason, couldn't go to work for an extended period of time, and I'm even going to make it one step farther, that you don't even know if you're ever going back to work because of what happened? And I'm not making something catastrophic, although maybe I am, because the answer is we don't know. But something happens and you're done. And you're done for anywhere from, let's just make it for sure, 1 year to forever. Because it does happen. We both know it does happen. What would happen to Robbie and Britt's life?
Well, unfortunately, I think it would change. It could change dramatically. I mean, assuming we don't know much about the Generation 2's personal planning, if there's no long-term disability coverage in force, and let's assume the average 40-year-old might not have more than enough in savings to survive for more than a year if they're even lucky. Some might not even be able to make it 30 days or a third of a year without a paycheck, as you always say, Mike. So I think at that point, it would be dire straits. So it'd be a tough, very tough situation.
Well, here's the point of this. Whose shoulders would it probably fall on to make sure that Britt and Robbie could continue their life the way they wanted it as best you could, to include taking care of your son? And let's say there was failure to plan. There was nothing in force. There was no income protection in any way, shape, or form. And mom in this situation is a librarian and volunteers most of the time with the school, the library, and is an extremely busy, has one of the hardest jobs in the world, which is taking care of the kids most of the time and running a household. Super hard job. What do I, as dad, grandpa, do? You know what I do? I probably decide that we're not going to Africa right now on the safari because everything just stopped. I absolutely don't want my son's house to foreclose on him. So what do I do? What burden do I feel to take care of my family? And I know people say, well, they're on their own. Well, no, not really, because we know how the real world works. And if you've got the means, you're going to do what's the term? Any means necessary? I hear it all the time. What do you?
And even though it's not their obligation to help out the client who's just retired, you know that they're going to feel that responsibility to go help in most scenarios, not all, but in most. But I think to take this a step further on the disability side, that you've just helped paint the picture on how someone's ideal retirement situation could be potentially jeopardized, even, just the thought of having to go help their son in that capacity and their grandchildren ultimately as well, to make sure their families, they're able to maintain their lifestyle. And so that could have all been prevented if the advisor helping the retiree asked for the introduction to the next generation and help them properly plan with disability income protection. And so that's an eye-opening scenario that you just laid out there, Mike. And I think a lot of financial advisors who might focus in that retiree space and say, I don't do much disability because it's not my market. Well, it is. You just have to go ask for that extra introduction. And so it's an eye-opening conversation we just had here.
And let's talk about that for a second. One is nobody ever wants anything to happen. Two is because there was no disability insurance in place anywhere, you just affected 3 generations of a family. You didn't affect yourself. You didn't affect just mom. You affected 3 generations of a family. It's okay if you're in the retire space to say, you know what? I just heard this story on a podcast, and I know it probably has rang true with a whole bunch of people. How many people are taking care of grandkids now in America? The number is just astronomical. And I don't know all the reasons. I have no idea what all the reasons are. But just tell somebody, I just heard this like kind of a parable, for lack of a better term, on a podcast. And it kind of rang true with me that this is what could happen. How's your son Grayson doing? Is he good? Is he, I don't need to do all of his work, but you know what? This one's important to me and it should be important to you and your family, because almost everybody at some point listens to their parents, stops listening to their parents, and then starts again. That's the cycle of life, right? Yep. And it's like, I don't need to get involved all deep into Grayson's stuff. But you know what? I would like to make sure that, because of you, that his risk protection package is right. And that risk protection package includes income protection, also known as disability insurance. Do you have any issues with that? You tell that 3-minute story to somebody, they'll listen. And why not? And I know Thanksgiving, we're not talking doom and gloom, but with one disability insurance policy in place, you no longer are going to completely change, at least totally from a financial perspective, the lives of 3 generations possibly.
Yep.
So why not? Why not give it a whirl? I know this sounds, and people are like, wow, that's a little hokey there, Mike, but it's the reality of life. You don't have to do it while you're toasting each other at lunch on Thanksgiving Day while you get the green bean casserole passed to you. But in your normal practice, telling people that are heading towards retirement and stuff, it looks like we're pretty well squared away here. But here's things that can get in the way. And it's okay to say this. Life gets in the way to any client in the world, and they agree. But you have that conversation. And one more sidebar, if you don't mind doing it. It's like, you got grandkids, right? You do. You have Britt and Robbie. I remembered their name. How old are they now? God, they must be growing up. You say the word growing up and boom, you're going to see 20 pictures on that phone in a nanosecond. And that is your opportunity to say, let me talk to you about something that I just heard, which is interesting, to say the least, and leave it at that. If someone says, no, my son's on his own, I don't care. Fine. But it's a constant reminder, because we live in the world of lack of awareness for disability insurance sales, meaning sales, no, people purchasing. This is just another way to talk to somebody and say, maybe this would make sense for you, maybe it wouldn't. But if you never do anything, you need to understand what the consequences could be, right? And we just laid out what the consequences could be. Everything in your retirement could possibly change. Grayson, the dad's life could change forever, because we do not know how long you're going to be out, and we're not really sure what it is. Yep. And then 2, you've got Britt and Robbie that somebody's going to still have to figure out college. And if we're going to depend on GoFundMe, I just don't think I don't think that's the way to go. When there's other solutions way better than the kindness, and I love the kindness of people, especially during the holidays, but I don't want my family to depend on somebody else's kindness for their well-being. That's my Thanksgiving for the day. We're going to have a great one, I know, but I just think that's where we stand. What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts, I've got 2 comments. One, agree with what you just said there. And yeah, this isn't something that maybe you bring up at actual Thanksgiving, but it's the time of year, the holidays. So your clients are seeing family, most likely interacting with family. So it's a great time to check in with them and bring this up and say, hey, is this something we could meet and discuss about first quarter next year, get the ball rolling, have these discussions, because you never know what you're going to uncover. And the last thing I'm going to say just as a sidebar is, Mike, I have had the fortunate opportunity to work with a lot of advanced planning life insurance professionals over the years, and they brought me into a lot of cases where they're doing business succession planning and where we're doing some disability business products, if you will. And so I have noticed in that market specifically, there are advisors out there that do a great job when they're doing the life insurance planning, whether it's buy, sell, or estate planning purposes for life insurance with generation 1 and looking at generation 2 and 3. A lot of them are saying, hey, we need to lock in the disability insurance in those younger generations as well to make sure that they're okay and properly protected up until retirement. So I think in the business market, I've seen it play out very well. But I'd love to see more of that. And so I think that's another opportunity is going to be those family businesses where there's multi-generational planning going on anyway on the life insurance side, potentially. It's a great time to bring up disability insurance for personal income protection in addition to the business products that might be getting used for buy-sell agreements like disability buyout. So just a sidebar there that it's the same concept as working with individual families within family enterprises or businesses.
And when you talk family enterprises, sometimes, because you have had way more experience than I have in this, it's the life insurance piece can exceed $100,000 in premium. It's a real number. So the cost of a $7,000 disability plan, see, money doesn't even enter the equation then. It's the thought that somebody understands, and it was explained to them, back to lack of awareness, on why this could have a grave consequence for you and your business going forward versus not. So it's not a money play at all, especially if you have business succession planning. I think that should happen every single time. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep. All good. All good. Well, we covered the Thanksgiving sales concept. Appreciate your thoughts on and insights on that, Mike. And we'll leave it here for the day. And I wish you and the family a happy Thanksgiving, and all of our listeners have a happy Turkey Day.
I got one more question. Do you like the canned cranberry stuff or like the homemade stuff?
I don't do cranberry. Yeah.
That's good enough for me.
I stick to stuffing, mac and cheese, and then turkey. So yeah, there you go.
I think that's enough for the caloric intake for the day. Make sure you get that walk in that day, my friend. I wish you a happy birthday, because it's all in the same week, and a most wonderful and joyous Thanksgiving. Be well, my friend. See you on the next episode.
Thanks, man. Talk soon.
Bye. And remember, financial planning starts with a risk protection package first.
And your clients are counting on you. See you on the show next time.
All right, my friend. Be well.